Hi, boys and girls. Miss Lehmann here. I decided to read another My Weird School Days book. This is Mrs. Jafee is Daffy. All right, chapter 1. The end of Mr. Klutz. Remember, here are our characters. We have AJ, Ryan, Michael, Andrea, Emily, and Neil. Chapter 1, The End of Mr. Klutz. My name is AJ, and I hate school. Okay, the first sentence is done. Enough reading for the day. You can go play video games now. I would rather go shopping for clothes with my mom than go to school. I would rather watch a ballet than go to school. I would rather eat a squirrel that got hit by a car and was lying in the middle of the road for a week than go to school. Well, maybe not the last one. It was Monday, the worst day of the week. Everybody had to go to the all-purpose room, which is a room we use for all purposes. So, it is a perfect name. The whole school was gabbing when our principal, Mr. Klutz, got up on the stage. He was holding a suitcase. Mr. Klutz has no hair at all. I mean, none. Not even a little on the sides like my grandpa. I have an important announcement to make, said Mr. Klutz. Quiet, said Michael, who never ties his shoes. Mr. Klutz is going to make an important announcement. Shh, said Ryan, who will eat anything. Mr. Klutz is going to make an important announcement. Stop talking, said Neil, who we call the nude kid, even though he wears clothes. Mr. Klutz is going to make an important announcement. We were all buzzing so much about Mr. Klutz's announcements that he couldn't make the announcement that he was trying to announce. The teachers held up peace signs with their fingers, which means, shut up. But nobody did. Mr. Klutz reached into his pocket and pulled out one of those air horn cans that people bring to football games. We all covered our ears and stopped talking. Boys and girls, I want to let you know that I have to go to the airport because I'm leaving. What? Mr. Klutz is leaving, one of the second graders yelled. Everybody started freaking out, screaming, crying, and falling out of their seats. You should have been there. Mr. Klutz isn't going to be our principal anymore, wailed Andrea Young, this annoying girl in my class with curly brown hair. He must have been fired. We've got to do something, shouted Andrea's crybaby friend Emily. Then she went running out of the all-purpose room. Even the teachers were sobbing and blowing their noses into tissues. Well, they blew the snot from their noses into the tissues, not the noses themselves. If they blew their noses into the tissues, their noses would fall off and it would be weird to walk around without a nose. Don't leave us, wailed Miss Hannah, the art teacher. She jumped on stage and was hanging onto Mr. Klutz's leg. What will we do without you? Moaned Miss Lazar, the custodian. Mr. Klutz held up the air horn can again. Everybody stopped yelling and crying. As I was saying, Mr. Klutz said, I'm leaving for 4 days. Oh, that's different. Chapter 2, A New National Holiday. We were all glad that Mr. Klutz wasn't leaving for good because he's the best principal in the history of the world. One time I got sent to his office for bad behavior and he gave me a candy bar. It was the greatest moment of my life. After Mr. Klutz's big announcement, we went back to class with our teacher, Mr. Granite, who is from another planet. Good day, mates, said Mr. Granite. This week we're going to learn about the Civil War. It was called the war between the states because the northern states and the southern states fought each other. What? That makes no sense at all. If you're gonna have a war, Michael said, you should fight somebody else. Yeah, I said, having a war with yourself is like punching yourself in the nose. Maybe we ran out of other countries to fight, said Ryan, so we had to fight ourselves. Boys are dumbheads, said Andrea, rolling her eyes. I was going to say, so is your face, to Andrea, but you'll never believe in 1,000,000 years who walked into the door at that moment. Nobody, because if you walked into a door, it would hurt, but you'd never believe who walked into the doorway. It was Mrs. Jafee, the vice principal. To what do we owe the pleasure of your company, Miss Jafee? Asked Mr. Granite. That's grown-up talk for, what are you doing here? Howdy, guys and girls, said Miss Jafee. I'm still new at elementary school, so I want to introduce myself to each class personally. With Mr. Klutz away for 4 days, I say it's a good chance for us to get to know each other better, by golly. Does everybody know what the word vice means in vice principal? Asked Mr. Granite. A bunch of hands shot into the air. Mr. Granite called on Michael. Vice means not good enough, Michael said, like the vice president who isn't good enough to be the president. Not exactly, said Miss Jafee. I got called on next. My dad uses a vice in his wood shop to hold stuff, I said. I took one of my sister's dolls and crushed it in the vice. That was cool. Not that kind of vice, AJ, said Mr. Granite. Andrea was waving her hands around like somebody who was stranded on a desert island trying to signal a plane. She is so annoying. Andrea keeps a dictionary on her desk so she can look up words and show everybody how smart she is. A vice is a bad habit like smoking, drinking, or gambling, she said. Yes, but not that either, said Miss Granite. Ha! For the first time in her whole life, Andrea got something wrong. It should be a national holiday. They could call it Dumbhead Andrea Day. We should get that day off from school every year. Na, boo-boo on Andrea in her face. Vice means instead of or in the place of, Miss Jafee told us. I'm going to be responsible when Mr. Klutz is away. Do you know what it means to be responsible? That means you mess up a lot, I said. Anytime something goes wrong at my house, my mom says, I'm responsible. Everybody laughed, even though I didn't say anything funny. You haven't been vice principal for very long, Miss Jafee, said Mr. Granite. Are you sure you have enough experience to be the principal? You betcha, Miss Jafee said. When I sit at my desk, I can see Mr. Klutz's office. I didn't see what that had to do with anything. Where did Mr. Klutz go? Asked Emily. Oh, he's on his way to principal camp, Miss Jafee told us. He's going to learn how to be a better principal. But Mr. Klutz is already a great principal, said Neil the nude kid. He'll be even better when he gets back, Miss Jafee said. Principal camp sounds like fun, said Emily. What if something terrible happens to Mr. Klutz at principal camp, I asked. Like what, AJ? Said Mr. Granite. Well, what if his canoe tips over and he drowns in the lake, I asked. They don't have canoes and lakes at principal camp, Arlo, Andrea said, rolling her eyes. She calls me by my real name because she knows I don't like it. They do too. Do not. We went on like that for a while. Andrea said that principal camp was probably just a bunch of grown-ups sitting around eating cheese and crackers. That's what all grown-ups do. I like cheese and crackers, said Ryan. What kind of cheese will they have? Asked Michael. I like a monster cheese. It's not monster cheese, dumbhead, said Andrea. It's Munster cheese. Oh, snap, said Ryan. My mom told me that used to be on a TV show called The Munsters, said Neil. Mr. Granite made the shut up peace sign with his fingers. Okie dokie, can we get back on topic, please? Asked Miss Jafee. Everything is going to be just fine while Mr. Klutz is away. What could possibly go wrong? I remember the last time somebody asked what could possibly go wrong. It was our graduation from second grade. I threw my cap in the air and it knocked over the eternal flame and set Emily on fire, and Emily freaked out and knocked over the graduation cake. And Neil the nude kid almost got trampolined by a goat that escaped from the petting zoo. And then the fire department came and sprayed water on everybody, and Andrea's mom and Ryan's mom started wrestling each other, and my teacher, Miss Daisy, fainted, and we thought the school security guard was kissing her even though he was just giving her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And then we found out that Miss Daisy fainted because she was pregnant. You should have been there. But I'm sure nothing like that could possibly happen this time. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 chapters of Miss Jafee is Daffy.